Well, I just decided about 1 minute ago that I was going to do these, I don't know what we're going to call it, my cancer biography, my chemotherapy challenge. I just started today. So I haven't informed you or talked about this at all, but I guess I will consider this the beginning, I guess, of my story. I don't know very much about cancer through all my years, even though two of my uncles died of cancer and my mom had colon cancer. I still personally knew very little about it and had very little experience with the dealing with it even. In any of those three cases that my family, I actually wasn't involved in the therapy or whatever happened. So I still came out of those experiences kind of ignorant. So going into this whole experience, I really don't know anything, and so it's just shame. But there's all kinds of different cancers. So what you know about one cancer may be different for another one. So my particular type of cancer is the squamous cell cancer, and I guess there's a couple of variations of it, and whatever those variations are, I got the worst. My doctor explained, well, in terms of the different kinds, you got that really healthy, vibrant one, kind of like me. I got my version of cancer, version of me, which I guess makes sense. But anyway, I've got a pretty aggressive kind of thing, but it's all local, see. So, but anyway, here's the story's been very traumatic for the last 6 months. It's June 21st today. And this problem actually appeared in November or December of last year. And I had a hemorrhoid, and I contacted my doctor and I said, hey, I got this big hemorrhoid. I've never seen one quite like this. And it's right there at the end, so I'm sitting on it and it's poking out. It's a whole nuisance. Sorry, I'll put some sort of warning on this thing. It's kind of gross, but hey, if you're coming here for chemotherapy and cancer, you got to be prepared for whatever it is. We're talking about body functions, so let's not get weird. Let's just be neutral about everything. So anyway, I had this hemorrhoid, and it was causing me problems. It was bleeding a lot. They have a word for it. It starts with A. Oh, I forget what it is, but they've got a word for something that gets scratched and bleeds or something like that. The doctor, I heard from a couple of my different doctors who saw it. They said the same thing. So anyway, they, well, the first doctor, who's since retired, he said, oh, well, let's just put some topical medicine on it and see if we can shrink it up. Now, this thing's about the size of a cashew. So that didn't seem logical to me at all. I only got through about 2 weeks of the. Well, first of all, he tried to prescribe something called Anusol, and Anusol is not covered by Medicare. Important thing to know. I don't know why doctors don't know this, because I discovered this 5 years ago. But anyway, Anusol, because of it's like a preparation H, and only it's got a steroid in it. I think that's the only difference between it and preparation H is it has some steroid maybe, and that's it. You can't get over the counter. So it's a prescription thing only. Now, supposedly, you can kind of create your own by getting the preparation H and then getting some cortisol. Even at the dollar store, you can get these steroid creams and stuff, and you mix them together. And that's what my original doctor told me to do, which unfortunately caused me the problems which got me the surgery, because it turned out I had a fissure. I didn't have a hemorrhoid. I had a fissure. I had a crack in my colon. And so unfortunately, putting the creams and stuff in there, I think actually made it worse. And as a result, it had an abscess, and then the surgeon went in there the first time. It was back in 2017, went in there. And the book on that is I'm Not Homeless. Actually, I've got like 3 books that detail this whole story over like 2 years. Well, one of them is called Fistula of Fury. It's not a fist of fury. Fistula of Fury. And anyway. And then the other one's called I'm Not Homeless. I'm domestically challenged. And those two in particular have a lot of the story in them, and it might have filtered into a book before and after, but those two right there are the main two, I think. And so those 2 surgeries, so I write at least 1 book a year. So anyway, the point being is I had 2 surgeries down there, and went through some bad advice, bad treatment. The first surgeon went in there and said, "Oh, this is too complicated for me because you got that abscess there." And so then he had to button me up and said, "Oh, you need somebody who's higher up the food chain or high up this ladder," and which is terrible because when I went to him, I said, "Are you a colorectal surgeon?" Because the guy in the emergency room said, "Make sure to get a colorectal surgeon." He goes, "Well, I'm just the regular type of surgeon." He said, "The only difference between me and a colorectal surgeon is they went to school, just got another degree. Other than that, I can do everything they can do." And that's what he told me, which was a lie. Because as I just said, once he got in there and realized that there was that abscess too, and that was beyond his ability to deal with or his normal protocol, and he wasn't, I guess, willing to go up the ladder to that other kind of surgery, he said, "Oh, well, you're going to need a real colorectal surgeon." So in the end, that first surgeon actually said that I was right. I needed a colorectal surgeon, and he was wrong. He couldn't do whatever I needed done, and he lied to me when he said he could. So anyway, that started my whole, as I call it, my rectal ruin, RUIN series. So anyway, over 2.5 years. So anyway, I thought I was totally over this because, okay, so I had to wait a year, and I got this other doctor, a really, really good one, Charles Hedrick, I think is his name. And he was able to go in there and he sliced my butt sideways and then put some rubber bands in there or whatever that we had to keep taking out so that the thing would like heal from the inside out. So it couldn't heal. So I had to be hospitalized for 4 to 6 weeks so that this could be an open wound and then go slower, and I'd get blood tests and thermometer tests every day in this place at the hospital. They'd just check me to make sure there wasn't an infection, and so anyway, okay, so those are the 2 surgeries that precipitated this. I thought I was all done with all my colon or anal problems. And I healed up fine after the second time, and it was successful. I thought, okay, everything's good. I'm back to normal, which I have been. And I got all my, what do they call that? Constancy, continence, which is your ability to hold your anus shut so you don't leak. You even hold your farts, which for a year or so was very difficult for me. I couldn't, hold my farts as well, but I've got that muscle now and everything's fine. Now, the sad thing is if this chemotherapy I'm on right now doesn't work, they're going to actually take off my entire anal thing, plug me, and put a tube from my colon out the side into a bag. So let's hope the radiation works. But anyway, let me give you the story so you'll catch up to where we are. And hopefully this will illuminate someone else who might be in a similar situation, or at least prepare you to understand I don't know, I know nothing about this. So I'm a teacher, so as I learn things, I like to share what I learned. That's as simple as that. And so I've learned a whole bunch of stuff, and I feel like, well, okay, I can either keep it private, which I don't know the benefit of that. I could make it public, which I also don't see much benefit in. I could Facebook or anything because nobody seems to care about anything I do. So, there's some fake sympathy. I'm not that interested in that. And but a couple of my relatives have really stepped up with some genuine support and concern. So that's been nice. So the concern I've got for my relatives has been nice. But anyway, getting back to, okay, so where were we? Let's get on with our story. So I've had 2 surgeries down there. I was fine. The last surgery was in 2018, and it's 2021. So I went like 2 years with no problem. So I'm not sure why all of a sudden this cancer appeared. If it was slow growing and finally just appeared, over the last 2 years since the surgery. Maybe there was some little problem left over. Or if it's totally just recent, and I don't know how fast it could come up, but it must have happened a long time before December, because what happened was the cancer was growing inside me near my anus, I guess, and it kind of like put pressure on that blood vein, and then the blood vein created the hemorrhoid. I'm kind of guessing, because a hemorrhoid is just a blood vein that's kind of decided to be like a balloon and then stretch out. And so I think that it somehow put pressure on that blood vein, and that's why it ballooned out. And so the cancer must have been happening maybe for a year since then, maybe since I moved in here. They spray bug poisons around here, so but I couldn't begin to put any blame where it is. It'd be nice. It might be nice to know, though. I wouldn't want to repeat this mistake, and I wouldn't want anybody else to make whatever mistake I might have made to make this happen. I don't know how avoidable it is, or if it was just a thing with the surgery, that gave me a susceptibility. I don't know. So the cause to my surgery, if I find out, I'll tell you sometime. But anyway, at this point, all we know is I got cancer. We know what kind. We know where it is. Then I had to spend about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, so then, well, here's how we found out I had cancer. Okay, so back in November, December, I go to my doctor. I say, I got this big hemorrhoid. And I go in and check with him. And he goes, oh, let's put some medicine on it. Okay, that's why I got the bird in my story. Okay, so anyway, but it turns out the prescription he gave me, my insurance wouldn't cover, and it's like $100 for a little tube, like those $1 tubes, but it's $100 or something. And I said, well, I don't know. It's I won't pay $100 for something I don't even think it's going to work. So I wasn't about to be cash for it, and the insurance wouldn't cover it. So I asked him for a non-insurance thing, and he couldn't find one. And they said they'd send me one, but they never did, and I never got that referral. And finally, I said, hey, listen, this thing's not getting any better. Would you please give me a referral to a GI, gastrointestinal doctor, so I could take care of this? So he finally decided, okay, we'll let you see a professional. That's the doctor that retired. He may not have been that great of a doctor, but I didn't have him for that long. So anyway, but he did look at it, and he pushed on it and everything, and he still couldn't tell it was cancer. That's the thing that kind of bothers me, is how many people are being not being diagnosed in time. This guy actually looked at my hemorrhoid, touched it, pushed it, and everything, and he still couldn't recognize that it was a cancer, or cancer-oriented. Okay, so he writes me out a referral to a Dr. Tiagi, I think it is. And so I go to this doctor, and he's an actual gastrointestinal. I asked for a colorectal surgeon, but they said, well, actually, hold it. I've got it wrong. I got it wrong. This guy came in later. He is the GI doctor, but I didn't want the GI side. I want a colorectal surgeon. I want somebody who's, higher up the food chain and knows more about that. That's right. So they gave me the referral to Dr. Kermani. And Dr. Kermani then saw me back in February at the latest, but January, I think, because I think we scheduled our first surgery in February. And so anyway, in January, and he saw it, and he pushed it. And he pushed it in too, and he still couldn't tell that it was cancer. So just letting you know how hard it is to tell the difference, I guess. And so he still didn't see it. And I was bleeding a lot. And so he said, okay, we'll schedule a surgery. So we had to wait for the referrals, and you got to get the approvals. And we had a COVID thing going, so we had to get a COVID exemption too, even a special exemption during the pandemic to perform a surgery. So I had the exemption, I had that. Now, before I could do the surgery, I had to, of course, get blood tests, and I had to get a blood test, and I had to what was the other thing? I was just saying. That was that different. I had some X-rays. No, this is later. Okay, so let's see. So anyway, I had a blood test. Oh, I had to have a COVID-19 test, and I had to have it within 3 days or 4 days of going in for the surgery, which means I had to get it and then have the results in time to have the surgery. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it without actual COVID approval. So I did the blood test, and I went and got the COVID approval right before the surgery. And then I find out, like the day before the surgery, that they're going to cancel the surgery. So I think the surgery was on Tuesday, and so this is like a Monday. And then so they canceled it on Monday. I go, well, why? And they go, well, your potassium's too high. It was the actual surgical center that said we couldn't do it. Even though my doctor had approved everything and said that even though it turns out my potassium level came back with a reading of like 5.8 and 5.9, did like a half a dozen of them, but they were all about 5.7 to 5.9. And the surgical center said they would not do my surgery if there was any reading above, what did I just say, 9.5, I think it is, or 8.5. And so, getting these numbers right, shouldn't be talking about. Anyway, I'm thinking of all these different things. But anyway, I'll change the numbers if I get them. If I mix them up, I'll talk to you again. But anyway, the point being is, I was getting what was it? Actually, I think it was 9.8, and I was actually an 8.3 is what it really turns out to in the long run if I shortcut my story, because they canceled my surgery for this thing. Okay, then they tried to schedule me again for another month, and they sent me to a dietitian to reduce my potassium. And so I stopped eating nuts and most fruits, no bananas, a lot of vegetables you couldn't eat, no blueberries, all these type things to get my potassium down. So we go take my potassium test again, and it's gone from 5.9 to 5.7. It's like, what? That's it? It was that high. And then, so they had to cancel my surgery again. But actually, they were willing to do something else, which I didn't want to do. They said that they would do this chemical that you drink, and it strips your body of all its potassium. Sounds very unhealthy because it's probably stripping it of all kinds of other stuff too. And then you got to go into a surgery and I cut up. And so I did not feel good about taking that drug, which may actually have been very detrimental to my health, because if it turns out that I was actually at a, might be doing the numbers wrong, but 4.3, and I was 5.9. I think that was the way it was. If I'm actually at 4.3 and they're lowering my potassium super down, your potassium controls your heart. That means that I could have had a heart attack in surgery without any potassium. So we almost killed me, possibly. Seriously. So anyway, it's a good thing that I finally, so we canceled the second surgery. So I had 2 surgeries that were canceled. So like in February and March or April. Yeah, maybe it was April, because it takes a while, and I had to wait 30 days, and I had to go through the diet, and then we scheduled. So then we scheduled another, and that one was failed. So the second test I failed, because it came like 5.7 instead of 4.3. That was it. Okay, so anyway, so now my second surgery's been canceled, okay? So I'm living with this thing, but I'm calling them, regularly, the doctor, and telling them, hey, I'm really bleeding a lot, because I was. In fact, there was a couple times I was dripping blood. I had to wear underwear and diapers, because sometimes if it was bleeding really bad, I would literally drip when I walked. It was that bad. So, but I thought it was just a hemorrhoid. But anyway, so here we are. Where are we now? Okay, so I've canceled my second surgery, because I got that potassium reading of 5 that was it. They just canceled me because they said, oh, you might have a heart attack, in surgery with a high potassium. So you can't have it too high or too low, because potassium helps regulate your heartbeat. And then they give you drugs to regulate your heartbeat. So, you want you to be as normal as you can. So anyway, where were we? Okay, so finally, one of the nurses said, why don't you go to the hospital and get a blood test? So I walked across the street to the hospital and said, hey, I was told by Dr. Cowboy to get a blood test because I think I'm getting faulty results. Sure enough, my potassium came back at like 4.3. So what does that mean? Why is that? And how did I lose all these 3 or 4 months actually even discovering that I had cancer? Because we still don't know I have cancer. We just think I got this big hemorrhoid that's bleeding all over the place. So anyway, what happens now is, okay, where are we? Trying to put this whole story together without jumping too many steps here. Okay, so we've canceled the second surgery. I go to the hospital. I get this thing. It says that it's okay, so I call up the doctor. We reschedule the thing. I have to get another blood test, which shows, of course, that I got the 4. Actually, they used the one from the hospital. And they decided, okay, we'll just use this one. We don't want to make a chance I'm getting a faulty reading again. And so they used that for my blood test result. And we were able to schedule it. Then I had to get another COVID test a few days before, and then I did my surgery. Okay, now we're all the way up to the surgery. So this is where things start really going downhill. As if that wasn't a horrible thing of all this blood, and man, I had bloody diapers and everything. And I gave you more details, but let's not. Okay, so anyway, but I was talking about 5 months of just bleeding every day. So anyway, I'm in the surgery, okay, and everything supposedly goes well. And I said I was really a champ in surgery, so no reactions to chemicals, which I already knew because I've already had surgeries. So, okay, I get the surgery and I get out of surgery, and the doctor's like saying, he's like in this sort of like weird stressed out thing, and he's not being polite, and he won't talk to me, and he won't really look me in the eye. And he's saying, you got surgery, he says you got cancer. And I go, what? He's like, yeah, you got cancer. He goes, we're going to have to get some more tests. But and that was it. He wouldn't talk to me about it, but he says it was cancer. That was it. I thought I might talk to him again before I left, but I didn't. He didn't talk to me. And in fact, the surgery was, I think, 2.5 hours late. I had to sit in there and wait 2.5 hours late, plug the IV, because they couldn't. They ran backlogged. Some doctor had a problem that ran him over 2 hours or something, and he blocked up the whole surgical center. So there's like 3 doctors, and they rotate, and then one doctor goes into the surgery, and then another doctor goes in. So it's a surgical center. So these are all kind of new to me. I've been only working through hospitals and hospital surgeries. So this is my first time in these little outpatient surgery centers. So anyway, so I'm in there, and I'm recuperating. I'm hardly even drowsy. I wake up, I feel alert. It was like, wow, whatever they did in terms of knocking me out really wears off quick. No residual effects, no headache. So anyway, I get checked out of there, and I know I got cancer, but what the hell does that mean? That was it. So it's like, what? This is weird. So he goes, oh, so then I have to schedule a follow-up appointment with him, because doctor's not really supposed to spend time with you there and give you your whole appointment. He's got to get the results. And he said, that was the other thing he said. He said he sent something off for a biopsy. So it was like a week later then that I had the appointment with Dr. Kermani. So now is the first time that we've got the scientific proof that I have cancer, because he's got back now the biopsy tests, and they now can affirmatively say, hey, this guy's got cancer. Like, what? And that's when we find out it's a squamous cells, if I'm saying it right or spelling it right. SQUAMOUS, maybe squamous. A lot of people say squamous, but I think it's got an A, squamous. Anyway, cell cancer, which it can also happen in the heart and stuff like that, in the lungs. So now that we know I got cancer, we got to figure out how bad it is. Okay, so there's different types of cancer, but the one I've got evidently, in fact, I've heard and read several times that it's actually unusual to have it in the location that I've got it. You usually get it in other parts of your body, which put me at a higher risk. That means that whatever I got down here should actually be growing somewhere else. It's like, so I don't know how it is. So I have to tell my relatives and tell my family. I say, I got cancer, but I don't know how bad. So everybody's all like, I'm like, well, that's all I know. I'll tell you more when I know more. So everybody's more upset about it than I am. I'm pretty much keeping my cool. In fact, I even heard some compliments today about how I kept my cool over the last few weeks, finding this all about it. Evidently, people could somehow tell. I mean, I was pissed off and unhappy about it, to be honest with you. So I was, I couldn't say I was just like jovial or taking it totally lightly, but no, I dealt with it really well. And I'm proud of myself. So never broke down or panicked or yelled or said, woe is me, why me? I didn't get on, I'd like to just find out the scientific reason and accept it. So anyway, point being, okay, so now I'm in the office with him. Now here's the weirdest thing about being in the office with my doctor. He's saying, I'm sorry. I mean, half a dozen times. Seven times? Nobody came into my head. He must have said, I'm sorry. I talked to my brother later and I said, I don't accept his apology because number one, he never said what he was sorry for. And number two, he never said what he would do so that he would not make that mistake and be sorry like that again. So this guy did not learn his lesson. He made a mistake. He felt bad about it, and he wanted to let me know he felt bad about it, but he really hadn't gotten smarter and he didn't know how he was going to do better in the future. So I'm not happy about that, doctor. So anyway, and he was like, I'll put that stint in. I'll get that stint. We'll get you on the chemotherapy. We should have you on there in a few days. I mean, he was panicking. He was literally panicked, more than I have ever even been panicked about this. He was panicked. And he thought that I should be on the chemotherapy within days or hours because he was so concerned with how bad it was and how much cancer there was. So and he knew that it had been growing there for 6 months, or 5 months at least, 5-6 months that I've been under his care. He had been ignoring it or not aware of it. So maybe he was apologizing for not diagnosing it, but he didn't say that. He never said that. So I don't even know what he thought he was apologizing for, but I never understood his apology, and I don't accept it. Like I said, until he says what he's specifically apologizing for and says how he's never going to do it again, his apology means nothing, absolutely nothing. So anyway, back to I'm still in that office. Now there was a nurse there I'd had those conversations with on a weekly, bi-weekly basis over the last 5-6 months, talking to her. Maybe I shouldn't say her name, but she was really nice and really friendly, and we got along. And I said, I'm starting to think of you as my friend. She goes, well, you are my friend. And so we had this kind of like real friendship. And when we talked, it always seemed like it was hard to say goodbye. Like she was always willing to talk a little longer, and we were having a good time. And she appreciated the fact that I taught kung fu and this and that. So she, I thought she was, genuinely, if it wasn't for the business aspect, maybe we would have been friends. I'm not saying romantic or anything, but friends. Like she seemed nice. I liked her. And I like people that like me is really what it is, because I'm a very weird, unique person. So if people don't like me, it doesn't matter how much I like them, it's not going to work. So it's always got to start with somebody liking me, and then it's like, oh, okay, let's see if I can like you. But I'm the hard person to like. I can like anybody. I've gotten to where I can work with everybody, and I don't want to be insulting, but all mental levels and abilities and problems, I can work with them. So that's not my issue. But anyway, okay, so most people can't work with me. That's the issue. Only very, very few people can work with me. Maybe 1 out of 100. can actually work and communicate effectively with me. I mean, I can come down to everybody else's level and communicate, no problem. But on my level, which I'd like to be communicating at, very rare. In fact, I've been thinking about that lately. When I was going out with all those martial artists about 5 years ago, when I was hanging out at the Martial Arts History Museum for like a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, I was going to a lot of these events that they have and attending them, and then going to the after dinner things. Did a few speeches about a couple of the martial artists that I knew and stuff like that. And so I was going to these events and socializing, and then we'd go out and eat. And I was really, whenever we ate, you know, I was so poor. It was like, gosh, what can I do? Maybe one taco and a cup of coffee. It's like I was so poor. I mean, dirt poor. That, you know, I couldn't really maybe enjoy myself as much as maybe the other guests. In fact, some people I think knew I was really poor, and sometimes somebody would buy me a meal. But anyway, the point being is I was hanging out with all these people, and I was starting to think we never ever had one single meaningful conversation. I cannot think of a conversation that was meaningful, interesting, or memorable. Ever. But I was trying. I really was. And it's because, you know, I can socialize and talk about whatever little issues are in the daily life. But I really don't want to do that. I want to find people who want to talk about the bigger issues of philosophy, maybe even government, maybe even politics, but, you know, on a bigger level, not even on a personal or partisan level, on a higher level than that. And so, anyway, okay, where was I? I got off on that chatting and talking and communicating on a higher level. Where were we? If I back up, I got so far off track. Okay, backing up my mind, looking at me in the end. Maybe I could back up quicker if I wasn't so self-conscious right now. But let's see. Well, where were we? Let's see how I can get back on topic here. Okay, so we're back in my story. I had to go get X-rays. So he ordered X-rays. Now, because they didn't know where it was going to be, I had to have chest X-ray, abdominal. Remember, one of my uncles died of stomach cancer, another one of throat cancer, and then my mom had colon cancer. So they had to order C scan. So I've been like zapped my whole body, and they did 3 big ones, I guess. So I did those, and when they did those, okay, so then I had to wait. Now, it takes 2 days to get the results. So I did the CT scan on a Monday. So I called my doctor on like Tuesday or Wednesday to find out what the results are. He says, oh, you got to wait for my next visit next Tuesday. I can't do that on the phone. And so, I mean, I want to know whether my cancer is local or spread all over the place. And I got to wait another week before I'll know. I mean, I might only have 1 week to live, but I got to wait a week to find out. So this is like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I got to wait till the next Tuesday to find out. And so I was almost pissed. I mean, I realized that would have been a good time to get pissed. That'd be a good time to get mad. That'd be a good time to start demanding something. That'd be a good time to start saying things are unfair. That was a good time to say, well, how did you not, you know, anticipate this and book me an appointment or something to, so it raised my ire on all kinds of different issues and levels and points of contention, but ended up just having to wait a week. So then my parents, my dad, and everybody, what'd you know? And I don't know anything. And they, of course, before Tuesday, would you find anything? No, I'm still waiting. Oh, it was that way before I even got the CT scans. They were calling me, did you get your scan, get the results? No, I haven't even had the scans yet, because I had to wait like 3-4 weeks or something, like a month. And anyway, and now I get the CT scan, and I got to wait a week and a half almost to get the results. And okay, so let's just jump ahead. Okay, so this has been my nightmare. This year has not been a fun year. So I get into my, okay, so where was I? I'm going to my appointment, my doctor, okay. So this is the doctor who's going to review, tell me what the extent of my stuff is. And who's that going to be? It's not going to be the surgeon, it's going to be my regular doctor, okay. So I go to my regular doctor, who's a brand new one. In fact, I keep trying to choose Orientals because I just, obviously, look at my wall over here. There's my eastern wall, and there's my western wall. I made these wall units over here, and they used to be one for Shaolin film, one for Shaolin records, and one for Shaolin music. And I had all these, each one of these wall units there's 3 of them there put together. And right now, it's all Kung Fu. Everything you're seeing there is all my Kung Fu stuff. That's how many Kung Fu books I've written, practically. With a couple exceptions, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I'm pretty sure this wall of books is all those notebooks on that shelf that shelf are all kung fu that I've written. Okay, anyway. So anyway, I like Oriental doctors. So in fact, who is my new? Everybody says his name is Wen. But it's spelled Nguyen, Nguyen. So I think it's supposed to be pronounced Nguyen, but they just say Wen, Nguyen. But anyway, Nguyen. Maybe it's really short like that, the Chinese accent. I wish I knew. I'd like to be more respectful like that. I try to ask people how to say their names. They usually give me the Americanized version. They wouldn't even tell me the regular. But anyway, so I got this new doctor. I like him. He's got a sense of humor. He's straightforward. He was no nonsense. He's telling me all these horror stories. He must have spent like half an hour at least me asking him questions and questions and questions and him telling me what's going on, answering them and giving me all kinds of horror stories. And I'll share a couple of those horror stories with you. One of his clients, he said, was just like me. He said the guy was vibrant and energetic. He said a month later he turned yellow, and a month later he was dead. So he said, he was trying to like not get my hopes up, because I don't feel like I'm dying. He says, well, I had one patient who was like that, and in 2 months he was dead. And then he told me of another patient who was an elderly woman, and he said that the chemotherapy was just so trying on her. She was being hospitalized. She'd get the chemotherapy, and then they'd have to hospitalize her from the chemotherapy. She was reacting to it so bad. Never just like, I'm not sure if there was a better way they could have done it, and I don't know who to cast the blame on it there, but he said that he was against them. He said he was kind of against her going ahead, but the family, they just wanted to keep her going. They just didn't want her to shortcut that chemotherapy. And he said that he believes that the chemotherapy is what killed her. So these are kind of stories I'm hearing. And let's see, I'm asking him all these stories, and then okay, so let's see. So I'm in with my doctor, Nguyen, and he's telling me, he's the one who's telling me now, he tells me, okay, he's reading about cancer. He says, this is really healthy cancer, it's vibrant, it's really good, it's not used in this area. And he's giving me the whole spin off, and he says, okay, we'll have to do this. And he probably says, okay, I'm probably not going to see you anymore. He says, see you later. He says, until you actually get through your whole procedure, there's nothing I can do. He says, you're going to be in the hand of your chemotherapist doctor. You're going to be in the hands of the radiation doctor. And he says, I've got nothing really to do with it, until you're done, And I could see him then, So it's like, doctors don't really try to see you very often. But I'm not saying he's a bad doctor and he doesn't like me, but they don't seem to push for those visits as much as they did back when I was a kid. They were always pushing for these checkups and everything a lot more than they seem to do now. Okay, so anyway, I might see him. Well, I'm sure I'll see him again sometime. In fact, I definitely want to see him because I think he should take an interest in this. So I'm going to force him to see me. I'll book a post-chemical treatment visit. I don't think I already have, but I've already thought of it. So anyway, okay, so that's my regular doctor. Okay, so let's get back to the visit. He did tell me I didn't have it in the chest. I didn't have it in the abdomen. It looked like it was pretty localized. So he said it would be a matter, but he said, of course, if they did have to take off my entire anus, if they did it by surgery, they're gonna have to take off so much stuff down there that I won't have anything left. He said, so I have to plug the hole and then put a bag out the side. Wow, colostomy bag, I think is what they call it. Okay, so let's see if we can wrap up my story here. Well, we're getting closer at least. Okay, so actually, gosh, we got some ways to go because I still got to go through. Okay, let me just ramble, see how long it takes me. Because I would like to have a memory of this, because 10 years from now, I'm not going to remember all these little details. And I'm probably not even, like I said, giving all of them right now. But here we go. So I see my regular doctor, and he says, good luck. I can't give you any extra hope, but I hope it works well. It's up to those guys. See ya. So I go to my chemotherapy doctor, okay, and he, based on this type of cancer and where it's located, he puts me on this program where I'm going to have what I did today. Okay, we're getting finally to the end of the story, or closer to it. Let's say so today they plugged me in with first, I think it was just saline or water solution, and then another bag that had, she just said steroids, so I'm not sure which steroid it was, but she said this one has steroids and anti-nausea stuff in it. Okay, so then I had to do that. Then I had to wait almost half an hour, because they want all the anti-nausea, I guess, stuff to be in me. And then she hooked me up, with the chemotherapy, which took about, 15 minutes. 15 minutes to drink. Now the let's see, what can I? There was a couple of interesting things about all that. I was asking lots of questions. Oh, she poked me way up here, which no doctor done. You can see my kind of bandage here. Anyway, she poked me way up here, and she kept saying to the other guy, "Oh, this guy's got great veins and great veins." And I said, "Well, I try to do my 10 push-ups." I didn't for some reason. You know, I'm always talking about my kung fu, but I don't think I really talked about my kung fu today. But anyway, she poked me here above, and then went up this way. And she goes, "Oh, that's my secret vein." She goes, "That's a really good one to get because nobody else pokes it." She goes, "I prefer poking this vein rather than down here where everybody else is poking because," and she looked at me because it works better. And because these get worn out, I guess, from all that poking and everything. They're not as... Anyway, so she got me here, and in fact, I told her, in fact, I realized that as I said it, and I didn't make any grunts or gestures or signs of being a joke, but realized after I said it, I said, "That was the least painful prick I've had, lately." Or the last 3, but the least painful prick is what I said to the nurse. And she was good. She kept kind of a straight face. And said, "Oh, thank you." She goes, "Well, this thing," and but she was really nice. I liked the nurse. In fact, I like the other nurse too. Maybe I shouldn't say their names. In fact, they're not actually nurses. Actually, these two are, because most of the women are running all these machines. Even the X-ray machines, I think, might only be technicians. That's it. They go to these technical schools, for a few months or a year, and boom, they can go run all these machines. Even the person who draws your blood, I don't think is ever a nurse. That's a technician. Somebody who just went and took a course, and then can do it. So let's see. Okay, so where were we? So I'm in with the doctor, the chemotherapy doctor, during the visit. So I'm actually back there at the visit, aren't I? So in the visit, he tells me what we're going to do and explains. And he's a really nice guy, and we got along really good. And in fact, we were talking about tennis shoes because he's just started playing tennis. And I come from a tennis family. And Stan Smith's used to be my favorite tennis shoe. And so I remembered that shoe and telling him, he was showing me his new Adidas, and which were kind of like a sock. They were a wrapper, and they were different. And then he said, but what started was, he said, "Oh, I like those. Those are the last shoes I had. The ones I'm wearing, they're F-I-L-A, Fila." And I said, "Yeah, for a medium-priced shoe." I said, they're much better than I expected. I really like them. So, but we were talking a little about tennis. That was my chemotherapy doctor. So anyway, but he seems really nice, and I feel good about him. So I feel good about my chemotherapy doctor. Okay, the co-pays on this stuff. Oh man, there's a whole bunch of things I'm missing out in terms of picking up my pills over there and talking with them and working out all this and getting the blood tests. We're skipping a bunch of stuff. But anyway, the co-pays on the pills, which I can show you. Without showing you the RX number, maybe. Yeah, so I won't show you the RX. Anyway, I got to take so many. They couldn't fit them all in this jar. In fact, the medication, the way he worked it out, I have to take 3 of these big ones, and then this is like a half a size. And I take one of these half, but they're the same. And this stuff is called, it actually has a generic name, which is easier to remember, and I don't remember. It's capecitabine, citabine, bean. What am I taking? 150 milligram tabs. But anyway, like I said, I got to take these. Oh, this is going to be an interesting part of my story, which I'm going to come up to in just a minute. I have to take these after every meal. So twice a day, 5 days a week, and I got to do my radiation. Okay, let's get to the radiation doctor. I'm going to wrap this up. Oh, in fact, so I don't forget, let me just mention about, well, maybe I'll remember today. Let's jump over the radiation now. Oh, the co-pays on those things. A couple $100 or something. Oh, and then I had to get 2 anti-nausea pills. They gave me 1 anti-nausea, and they said, if this one doesn't work, then take one of these. And then later take another one of these, and it's still not working, then take one of these. So I could take up to like 2 of these and 2 of these. I'm not sure, but I ended up there. But yeah, they're supposed to only take 2 of these a day. But anyway, I got a piggyback one here in case I guess it was just real bad. So today they picked me up with the steroids and the anti-nausea. So if I am feeling nauseous, I'm unaware of it today. Okay, now the stuff I got today was called myoxin, I think. That was the intravenous thing. Now, the stuff I'm getting orally is totally different. In fact, let me just jump ahead and tell that story real quick, Watch. And now this stuff here, I read the literature on it. The literature on this one is this makes the cells divide really quick. And then that's supposed to make them die easier. It's supposed to kill them easier. So they replicate so quick, and then I got this poison in my body. That's it, and it poisons them before they can do it. So it's supposed to make them split, which makes them weaker, and then it poisons them, while they're young, or it makes it easier to kill them. So the one I had today, if I understood this right, I'll have to go read it again, is it makes everything divide quicker. It makes all my cells divide quicker. So it's probably happening to my whole body. Maybe my brain's going to expand. Okay, so anyway, so this one makes everything divide quicker, and that makes them more susceptible. Now, my other medicine, this other one, it says it does the opposite. It makes it hard. It puts something into the cancer cell, which makes it hard for them to divide. Now here's why. Let's get to the meat of the story. Go, kind of cut corners here a little bit. Being a storyteller must be fun. I'm always trying to get to the to punchline. I don't pad a lot of the flour and the details, which are cool, but heck, I'm looking at the timer. It's been 40 minutes. Okay, so anyway, where were we? Actually, I don't need to wear these. I'm not reading anything. In fact, where were we? The one chemical makes things not divide, and the other one makes them divide. Now, the ladies today said, "Did you take your oral medicine?" And I said, "No." I said, "I thought I was supposed to start that tomorrow." And said, "Oh, you should take it every time with your medicine, with your radiation." Now, I think they were actually wrong, and both the nurses said this, and I think that they're wrong because they'll contradict each other. So in other words, you would be not getting the benefit of the injection, and maybe not getting the benefit of that, because they may be working against each other. Now, as I understood the doctor's initial instructions, he said that I would start the oral the next day. And I'm pretty sure I remember him saying that. If I find my notes, because I've been writing notes down when I do talk to him, I think that's what he said. So I'm not going to take the oral ones today, despite the nurses telling me to, because I think they might be wrong. And the reason I can feel justified in that is I asked them about that. I tried to ask them about the fact that one makes the cells divide, the other one close. And they said, "Oh, we don't understand anything on a cellular level." That's what one said, and the other one was standing behind her. So that went for both of them, I guess. We don't know anything on a cellular level. If you want to talk about any of the stuff on a cellular level, you'll have to talk to the doctor. We can only talk to you about, the effects and, the symptoms and the reactions and, do all that stuff. So they have a very limited knowledge scope. And they could widen it, but unfortunately, as in the world, most people only want to know as much as they need to know, and that's it. And so anyway, I think that they were misleading me by telling me to take my oral medicine today. So I'm going to skip it. I don't think there could be that much of a... I've thought about the pros and cons of it. And the cons, I think the pros outweigh the cons. and I will be taking the medicine with the radiation for the next, 6 weeks or something. So it's not like I have to do it today. So I think this one time of the radiation and this particular chemical needs to get its chance. So that's what I'm doing today. And maybe we'll post comments down there or something like that. We can give some doctors information, because I'm not trying to prescribe or be an expert at this. I'm just telling you my story. And I'm hoping that through my story, you might have information that might be valuable to you. That's all I'm really offering here. Okay, so now we'll go to the radiation doctor. So I go over to the radiation doctor, and I meet with the radiation doctor. This is before today. And he explains the whole thing and shows me these horrible pictures of people with growths on their face and how they were able to get rid of the growths with the radiation. And he said that, that's basically it. The radiation is just going to kill. It is, it's a laser, kind of like a laser beam, but it's not boring a hole through you. But doing it every day for this many weeks, it's actually going to cause some damage. Now, one of the worst things I heard about this is all my Kung Fu students know I've been complaining on a regular basis about my hips. My hips are shrinking up. I'm a senior, I guess. I can't do side kicks level anymore to the ground. They're 45 degrees. They're not level anymore. They're just not. Same with my front roundhouse. I used to have a nice front roundhouse. I used to be able to kick somebody in the side of the head even, but I can't even get a level. It's down here somewhere now. So my hips, I'm definitely, I guess that's a senior thing, and I hate to accept it, and I don't want to admit it, but, what is real, it can be two different things. So, but I'm admitting the fact that my hips seem to be shortening up, shrinking as a senior. Now, the worst news I got was they said because the radiation is going to be coming in from the sides and stuff, it's going to be cooking my hips. The one part I'm already having trouble with, and I'm trying to actually enlarge and increase my flexibility, they're saying they're going to be radiating it and injuring it. So that's got me concerned that over the next 6 weeks, if I'm trying to stretch it too hard, but it's been injured, I might injure it more easily. So I'm in a weird kind of thing, and then this is something we can talk about over the next 6 weeks, so I can share this information with you. Is it bad to do splits during this particular type of surgery where they're shooting, you know, radiation through my hips. We'll say a colon, if somebody's going to have colon radiation and they've got radiation going through their hips, is it bad to do splits kind of exercises? I'm going to still exercise, but maybe some of them I'm just going to back off on a little bit. Because I've been trying to push my splits, and now it's like, well, I've got to go the other direction. Let's try to maybe not push so hard. So anyway, just kind of giving you that one heads up. These are my heads up. I'm sharing. You know, I'm hoping that this knowledge base will be interesting to me in the future and valuable perhaps to somebody else. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so I think you explained that it was kind of like Star Wars. He said that basically what they're going to have to do, the next step, this is my first visit with my radiologist. He says they're going to send me to another place, which is where I had to go a few days ago. And we're going to use this, and it's called a technical therapy planning scanner, something. It's a special type of like CT scanner, but the whole focus of it is to actually plan out the places that you're going to shoot the radiation. So that's what that one's for. It's a special kind of computer that can help you set the coordinates and create the program to shoot all the lasers consistently and the radiation to the right spots. But it's all automated. So I had to go to this other place and go to that CT scanner. That was a few days ago. Now when I got there and she started doing it, she says, "Oh, we can't do it." And I go, "Why not?" She goes, "Well, there's no. You need to fill up your bladder." I go, "I didn't know that." And so she said, "Yeah, your bladder is kind of in the way of, I guess, of where they're going to be shooting a lot of the radiation. And somehow, if I put water in it, it moves it up out of the way," which I can't really picture, to be honest with you. But that's what they said, and they've been saying it consistently. So let's just buy that. So anyway, by filling up my bladder, it's going to move it out of the way. Now, there's another reason I found out, and that's by having water in it, I'll get less damage to the bladder, because I guess it's going to be getting some radiation, and somehow the water, I guess, is going to maybe absorb some of that radiation, so the bladder won't be so injured. Blast a hole in my bladder, that's got to be a bad thing. So anyway, so that's why another reason why it's important to have my bladder full. So as I told my brother Tom, which amused him, I said, the most stressful thing about today, which was yesterday, is I said, I'm worried about peeing in my pants. So I'm a senior. I don't hold it very long, and I've been indoors living next to a few feet away from a bathroom for a year and a half. So I haven't been holding my urine for a year and a half. Get the slightest urge, just go take care of it, you know. So anyway, I was concerned, but I had to drink 24 ounces of water. So, okay, now we're up to today. Finally, we get out of here, at least for an hour. So here we go. But anyway, he said it's like he said there's going to be laser beams. He said lasers are going to be shooting my lymph nodes. Really? That's what he said. So anyway, and it was really kind of interesting. It was actually kind of cool being in there. I'll tell you about that in just a second. It's kind of like being a fighter pilot in one of those Star Wars movies a little bit. But anyway, okay, so that's that. I didn't tell you about the initial visit, other than the fact he talked to me and told me stuff and gave me more hopeful stories than my doctor did. And then I had to go get that CT scan. So I go there, I didn't have enough water, so then I had to drink some water. Then they did it again. They said it was okay, and then I was able to leave. So I was there for like an hour and a half or so. But anyway, so then I go, so finally, so now today was the big day. Yay! How would it take? 48 minutes to get to today. Okay, so today was my big day. All right, so I had to go get my radiation. And you got to be there on time because they got these people just backed up in there, you know. So anyway, so I had to go get my radiation, and then I had to drive for my radiation with a half an hour time limit to get to my chemotherapy place today and get my chemotherapy. And then I came home, had lunch, and hello. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so the first thing I had to do was get to my chemotherapy. Now my concern was, once again, this whole thing with the bladder. I actually wet my pants once in the last year when I went for a walk, and I couldn't hold it long enough to get all the way back. And so I had a little stress level on the holding my urine thing. So anyway, I timed it. I figured, okay, my appointment was at 10:50. And I contacted them and told them that I had the chemotherapy at noon and I wanted to make sure I could be out of there in time. She said that the maximum time I would be there for was 11:30. Okay, I ended up being out of there at 11:20. So I figured, okay, maybe about 11:15 is when they're going to be zapping me. So I timed myself over the last few days. I've been actually drinking 24 ounces of water and then looking at the clock and then seeing how long it takes till I had to go to the bathroom. And it's 45 minutes. Try that yourself. See how long it takes for your water to get through your system, get to your bladder, and then say, hey, let me out. So it's 45 minutes for me. That's what it is. Now, how long I can hold it after that, I may need more practice. I don't want to estimate. So anyway, but today I had to estimate. Anyway, we did it. It worked out fine. I drank my stuff at 10:30. So I got there right at 10:30, drank my 3 8-ounce bottles right there in the parking lot, walked in. So I was really early, had to wait for my appointment time. And then they, talked to me and had to set me up and take me. And they said it took a few minutes to align all this stuff. And all this stuff's moving around. It was like being in a cockpit of one of those Star Wars things. It's really cool. I like these big, huge machines like moving around me. Seriously, instead of you moving anyway, instead of me having to rotate, all these different things and lights and things. And I don't know what was what I meant. I'll ask them later. A round thing, a square thing, a weird thing. There's things. All these things are spinning around me while I'm on this table. Big, huge things. So it's kind of like that round thing was about this big around, about that deep. It goes. Anyway, it's big. Anyway, so all these things. So that was kind of cool. So anyway, I got zapped. Didn't really feel much. Might be psychosomatic because I'm trying to feel all this stuff. So I might have felt the slightest nausea. Like I said, I don't know if that was psychosomatic or not, but I felt the slightest nausea, which reminded me of how I almost barfed when I was doing the original CT scan. When they put the iodine through me, there was a certain point where it got to my stomach, it's like, oh man, I can't hold it. It was like hit me really fast, and you feel the bile in your mouth, barf. And fortunately, I didn't barf. It went away almost as quickly as it came. So there was another thing too. I should mention about that first CT scan I had, where you have to drink all the barium. I had to drink 1 barium and then a second barium, and then I go in there and they hooked me up IV and they did the iodine into me. Like I said, I'm kind of shorting the story here. I haven't given you a lot of details, but the iodine, you can feel it's kind of warm, as it goes through your body. But there was a certain point where I just got so nauseous. And I was a little panicked. I actually I don't think I messed anything up, but I waved my hand. I moved it out there because I was afraid I was going to barf in case anybody could see it. I don't think anybody noticed. Nobody talked to me. Maybe I should have just said something really loud. I think there was a microphone in there. I think that was a mistake. I should have said, I think I'm going to barf. But anyway, I made it. And then it subsided really quick, and then I had to pee like a racehorse. I mean, I could barely put my signature on the paper, and I was running out, and my pants buckled up. But let's see. Okay, so that was the original CT scan, the first one that told us how much cancer I had. All right, now, so let's go back to the today. Okay, yeah, we're on today. Yay. Okay, so I'm there. I'm getting all the scan. No big deal. Felt pretty good. And once again, these girls said they don't know anything about chemotherapy. The girls at chemotherapy know nothing about radiation. So I'm asking lots of questions, but a lot of I don't knows. Okay, so anyway, I get out of there and I race up to my chemotherapy and get there earlier than they even anticipated, so they were happy because they wanted to have one of the nurses there who was going to leave that afternoon, so that the one nurse wouldn't have to be alone. And she told me today. I thought there was something weird or unusual about the mixture I was getting today, so I was kind of stressed out about that. She goes, "Oh, I'd rather the other nurse was here to do that because I've only done it a couple of times and she's done it." I was like, "What?" So maybe this whole array of stuff that she did. Anyway, she did it really good, so I'm glad I got that nurse. So if a nurse ever feels insecure or recommends somebody else do something, don't force them. Go for the preferred vendor. Okay, so anyway, so that nurse was really nice. She was really nice, really good. And she, like I said, the less painful prick. The least painful prick I've had. Okay, so anyway, where were we? Okay, so that was today. So I get my stuff. Now they hooked me up. They put the fluid. They got the stuff that's anti-nausea. I have to wait like half an hour for that to get through my body. They gave me the chemo. I don't feel that bad. They unplugged me. They said, "That's it. You're good to go." And so that was it. Now here. Okay, let's end this now. Yeah, I'll make it before the hour. Good. Now I don't know why it's good, but anyway, I only get one. Now the guy was sitting across the chair to me. I started a conversation with him. I didn't ask him too many questions because I didn't get personal or cause any problems with the doctors and stuff in terms of getting too personal. But I did ask him a couple of questions. And it turns out his treatment, he has no radiation. So maybe he's in the lungs or something, someplace where he's got too many of them. So he's only chemotherapy. That's it. No radiation. And in my case, they said that the radiation is 80% of my treatment, and that the chemotherapy is 20 to 40 or it's a minority portion of the treatment. So the fact that this guy's not getting the radiation, I'm not sure what that means, but he's going to be getting the infusion thing on a daily basis for, I didn't ask him, but we'll just say 6 weeks like me. So anyway, he was filling out the questionnaires and stuff too, and he had noticed a couple of things, so I went back through and read all my information about the disease really good, especially since I had time. And that's when I started realizing there was contradictions between my two medications, and I didn't think I should take them both at the same time, but they couldn't answer that question. So okay, where were we? In fact, I think they gave me the advice to take both of them, but they didn't give it to me with the understanding of the drugs. They just said it as a procedural answer. So I realized I had to invalidate their answer to some extent. So anyway, okay, so I'm in my, I think we're almost done because this is my last thing I did. So I'm in the chemotherapy, I get this thing, I was talking to that, oh yeah, he said he's only got the chemotherapy and that was it for all of his time. Now, and a couple interesting things, I told you there was a copay, it was like a couple $100 or something on my pills. That was my copay, it was like $5,000 or something for those pills. They were really overcharged, of course. The more you need something, the more they jack up the price. Anyway, the copay on the every day with all my insurance and everything, my copay was $36. Now, that means if I had to go in there every day for the infusion, I have to pay the $36 every single day. Okay, for 6 weeks. That's a huge copay. And for some people, it's a lot more than that. In fact, the nurse said there's some people who have, several $1,000s in copays, and it really breaks them, So yeah, this cancer thing is not totally covered, and maybe it should be, and maybe people are taking advantage of that and jacking up the prices because it's life or death. They know you're going to buy it no matter what, so they can jack up the price as high as they can get. So maybe when we get more drug regulation, we can bring those prices down to where I won't have to pay a couple $100 for those pills I showed you. Okay, so where were we? Okay, I think that wraps it up. Yay! Okay. So I feel surprisingly good, but then again, I had anti-nausea and I had steroids. So it could be kind of like Trump was so dumb when they jacked him up with steroids. He goes, I feel fine. Yeah, but you're on drugs, dude. So I'm on drugs too. Yay! But glad to report I feel fine. That's one of the beauties of drugs is the ability to feel fine. And unfortunately, that's also the evil of drugs is people that use them to feel fine when they should use other things to feel fine. So drugs are useful when you really need them in order to feel fine. So if you do need them to feel fine, then you need to figure out why you need them and solve that problem. But that doesn't make it wrong to take them until you get rid of that need. So you got to get rid of that need. And that's the whole issue of the drug thing. Putting people in prisons and jails, that doesn't fix them. You need to help them. You need to change their lifestyle. It's not even talking to them. It's not giving them a book to read. It's not making them watch a movie. It's actually making them have a lifestyle of eating regularly, sleeping regularly, exercising, learning something, working somewhere. I mean, you got to get that whole thing together, and that's what creates a normal person. And I'm presuming most of you out here watching that are normal persons. I was it was after midnight last night, so I didn't get a happy Father's Day from either of my kids yesterday, which was, I've been calling them and actually talking to them on the phone a little bit lately. I've been trying to warm up the field and see if we couldn't get it. So I was a little surprised when they didn't call me on Father's Day, especially after I'd called and talked to both of them in the last couple of weeks. So my kids are just nothing but a disappointment to me for the last decade or more, 15 years. They've been nothing but a disappointment. They never visited me once when I was homeless and didn't even call me on Father's Day. So in fact, I got both of their texts within 5 minutes of each other at about 11:30, which means that their mom, Michelle, must have made them do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have both done it so coincidentally, number one. And number two, I think that they wouldn't have done it at all if Michelle wouldn't have told them to. So thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. But it was just I love you from my daughter and happy Father's Day with an exclamation point from my son. And that's it. Considering the fact the next day I was going in for my chemotherapy, you'd think that they might want to actually call and talk to me and cheer me up or something. So anyway, that's why I'm excited about my foundation. 59 minutes. Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't use that as a way not to tell you this next thing. This next thing is the most cool thing. I'm starting a foundation because I thought my kids were going to inherit everything and take over the companies and run my Shaolin Music Publishing and my Shaolin Records company, because I got all these records on Amazon, and those are going to continue to sell forever as long as Amazon's not going to stop selling them as long as they can sell them. So they need to sell. They need to always send the royalties somewhere. So that means that my relatives or whoever I designate is always going to be getting these royalties off these albums and books I got. And most people are more famous after they're dead. So maybe my books and albums will sell when I'm dead. But who's going to get that money? Well, I thought it was going to be my kids. I thought it would be my ex-wife. No, they all left. They didn't want nothing to do with it. They don't want to help the business. They don't care. They don't ask questions. They don't support them. They don't promote them. They never ask questions. They really don't care. I mean, they've come out and said so too. Just saying that the proof is in the doing and the efforts and the lifestyle. Their lifestyle is they want nothing to do with me or my stuff or my property or my creativity. I mean, like the rest of my family. I talked to my brother Tom, and I told him I was trying to figure out a way to preserve, my products and my everything to continue without me. And he just says, "Oh, everybody's trying to do that." He didn't care at all about he has no appreciation for any of my books or products. None of my family does. My dad doesn't, my mom doesn't, neither of my brothers do, and of course none of my cousins. So anyway, I don't have any relatives that support me as an artist at all. Okay, anyway, but I'm not here to whine. I just wanted to say the good news. So the good news is I only discovered this. I should have started this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because I've always wanted to outlive myself. And so I'm going to form a foundation. And the foundation is going to have all 9 of my businesses. Okay, so there's going to be, I have 9 businesses, well actually 10, but I've got them numbered so I can remember real easy. So number 1 is Shaolin Music. I got a music publishing company with ASCAP. I get royalties every month, from radio play on my records, different places. Not much, obviously. I'm not very famous. I'm not famous at all. and then I got Shaolin Records, which is also records that are selling, and I get royalties on those, but not selling many of those, but a little bit, I don't think I've ever made more than $200 in 1 month, maybe. But anyway, so let's see. And then that's number 2. Number 3 is Shaolin Film. I used to be a professional photographer, a cinematographer. Movies used to be made in film. I love shooting film. I've been shooting with my Kodak Brownie camera since 1964 or earlier, doing black and white photography, and then became a photographer. I've always loved photography. And maybe partly because I decided I chose music over art. I decided in the 4th grade I had to decide whether I was going to continue to spend time drawing or I was going to spend time in music. I said, I quit drawing, I'm going to spend my time on music. I do the same with surfing. I was surfing and body womping, and I had a skimboard, and I could cruise up and down the beach on that, jumping on that skimboard, having a great time. And I had to decide, okay, what's more important? Am I going to play guitar or continue to skimboard, body surf, and enjoy hanging out at the beach? Nixed all that. So I really focused on my music ever since I was 10 years old. So anyway, okay, how do we get to there? I like going off on my little tangents, but then it's like, where were we when I got over there? Yeah, so continue the talking about me. Oh, my companies. It took me a minute, sorry. It's the drugs. We'll blame it on the chemotherapy. Number 4 company, Shaolin Communications. Now, Shaolin Communications is my bank account, my main one, so I don't have to have 9 checking accounts. That's just too much bother. I got 5 or 6 right now. Anyway, just unloaded one of your. Anyway, I've got Shaolin Communications, which is my parent company. Shaolin Communications, and then the next level would be the music and the records and the film and the digital, and so but Shaolin Communications could be that one company that coordinates and pulls everything together. Okay, now number 5 is Shaolin Digital. Now Shaolin Digital, I used to be a webmaster, and I used to make people websites, 15, 20 years ago. But I decided I didn't want to keep up with the technology, and I didn't want to learn JavaScript, and I barely learned PHP, and I just decided, no, I'm not. I mean, I probably, if I could have gotten a couple of partners together, and they did the stuff that I didn't want to do, and I just did the graphics and some of the text. I'm really good at the copyright, which is the copy. The copy, which is what they call the text. That's another word for it, copy. But anyway, I'm really good at writing all the text and the content and stuff. So I could have maybe formed a little partnership and been a really big web firm for the last 20 years, but never found any partners. So anyway, but that's Shaolin Digital. But I have to do all of that. I do all my websites. I got 55 websites, well, maybe a couple more, like 57 websites. And so somebody's got to handle all of them. Okay, so that's Shaolin Digital, and I'm the webmaster and the web designer and the graphic designer of Shaolin Digital. But eventually I have to pay somebody to do it because I can't do it forever. But anyway, Shaolin Digital is doing it right now. Okay, then the next company, number 6, Split. Okay, first it's Shaolin Chi Mantis, my regular Kung Fu school. Hey, Shaolin, pointing back here. Shaolin Chi Mantis, yay! Okay, now Shaolin Chi Mantis was formed in 1992, but I started teaching in about 84 informally, and it got more and more formal. Until 92, it became an actual business. I had to teach for the governor of Utah. So it became a real business in 92. So, but that's number 6. Now in 2008, I created Buddha Kung Fu. But Buddha Kung Fu is Shaolin Chi Mantis, but you just take off the praying mantis. Okay, so we take the praying mantis off there. You take off some of the Shaolin forms. There's only like 4 instead of 10, so we take off some of those. Okay, and then we take off a few more of the weapons, so you reduce the weapons a little bit more. And that's it. So there's Buddha Kung Fu. Yay! So Buddha Kung Fu is a black belt in Buddha Kung Fu. Let's put it this way. I don't know anybody who knows as much as that. You know, it's still an amazing black belt. I don't know any of these martial artists I've been meeting, these karate guys especially. You can learn everything that that a karate school has to teach you in 1 year or 2 years. That's it. That's the max. That's it. Other than that, you just beat each other up for as long as you can take it. But in 1 or 2 years, that's the only amount of information that they have. That's it. Unless they add more information to it, which they kind of do. They keep stealing Kung Fu moves and stuff. But it's still 2 years to learn. Now, Buddha Kung Fu is 7. And I'd like to see anybody do it in 7. And that's a new lesson every week with 2 to 3 lessons each week, okay? And book work and everything like that. 7 years. It's going to be 7 years. There's no way you can do it faster than that. I had some students who were in there, and they were doing really good. They were really doing good. They were getting a belt rank almost every 4 months. So they were getting, in 1 year, they could get 3 belt ranks, which means that for them, it would be first year, second year, third year. Okay, so where are we at now? We got 9 belt ranks. Third year, so maybe 4 years if somebody goes full blast. That's what I'm hoping. But now that I'm doing them online, I'm elongating them. I'm putting more time into them because I was always on a short time limit and, you know, really limiting the amount of time I read and talked and spent on the lessons. But so now I've stretched all the lessons out. So now instead of 2 lessons a week, it's 3 lessons a week, and the classes are a little longer. And instead of only being 4 months, they're 6 months. So that's the part I was really getting at. So instead of 3 belt ranks a year, online, although you could still do it in 4 months if you're really motivated, I'm kind of making it more of a 6-month curriculum. So it's like 2 belt ranks a year. So once again, if we looked at that 10 belt ranks, it'd be 5 years. Okay, so where were we? That was number 6. Number 7 is Shaolin Zen, which is what Tai Chi Youth was supposed to be. Tai Chi Youth Shaolin Zen was supposed to be a nonprofit. And then I got talked into making it not a church, making it a educational organization. So Tai Chi Youth is what I created. So that's number 10 or 11. You know, it's actually not even one of mine because it's a nonprofit. So I don't own that. So I don't include that in my businesses. Although we will help administrate it, donate, you know, and make sure that maybe with my donations we can hire people to work it, you know. But anyway, we'll get Tai Chi Youth is totally separate from me. It's not counted in my 10 companies. Okay, so 7 is Shaolin Zen, which was my Zen religion, and now it's kind of a Zen, I don't know, library, a Zen school, maybe a Zen school we could call it. That'd probably be the best way to call it. It's number 7. Number 8 is American Zen, and that's the American Zen Foundation. Okay, now we're getting to the fun part. Okay, that's the whole reason I started with, is to get to here. Okay, so let's just jump past this and I'll come back. Number 9 is Shaolin Pictures, and that's my movie company. That's for videos, motion pictures, films, everything. Even making my Kung Fu videos. Shaolin Pictures is the production company. All right, now let's go back. Number 8, the American Zen Foundation. Okay, then we'll wrap this up. There we go. So the American Zen Foundation is a nonprofit, number 1. So no point in paying tax. I'm not going to be around here. I'm just going to, well, you'll see. Anyway, it's a nonprofit. And then it's going to be I'm going to donate all of my stuff to it, all my copyrights, all my patents and trademarks and everything. I'm going to donate to the foundation. Now the foundation is going to have obviously a mission. It's going to say, what's your job? My middle finger. Anyway, what's your job? Your job is to manage all of the websites, to keep all the products online, collect all the royalties, distribute the money this way, and form it'll have like a trust fund or some sort of savings, several different kind of them maybe. But one of them, somehow, if it reaches a certain level, I would like to think that I could give my kids some benefits. If it's too poor to do anything, I got nothing to give them. But I'm trying to figure out what a threshold would be, so that if I reach that threshold, then each year I could give my kids certain amounts of money. And I could give my kids grants. And we're trying to work out some grants for my kids too. So remember, my kids don't want anything from me, and they don't want to help. They don't want to be a part of this, but they're still my kids. So I'm going to pretend that they love me, because I'll always love them. I don't know how they don't love me, but anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them. Maybe give me some suggestions in the comments. But this is my initial ideas. I got to still figure out and do all the legal stuff on this, and hopefully not die before I get it done. And I'm going to give them $25,000 a year, which isn't much. I realize that, but hopefully, maybe I'll give them more later. But at least I would think that it would make it easy. I'll give them $25,000 a year if they have 8 units per semester, and maybe 2 semesters a year. Take a semester off. So if they're in 2 semesters a year, with 8 units in each, to make them that's the minimum to be a full-time student. So at 8 units a year, then I'll give them 25 grand to help them out. And then I had another 25 grand, which was supposed to help them in some other way. I forget what that was. Maybe to finish or start their career or wrap up their graduation or something. But I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out ways to give my kids stuff, because they don't want anything from me. So I'm having to be creative on how to actually give my kids something. So anyway, I'll do those 2 things for them. And I had a couple other ideas for ways I could get them money. But obviously, I've got to have the foundation make some money. And if it makes money, then my kids can get some money, even if they're not doing a darn thing. I don't want them to work for them. That's the other thing too. I'm going to specify my kids aren't going to work for the foundation. Now, normally when you form one of these foundations, it's a family foundation, like the Bill Gates Foundation. And his wife works there, and they hire their kids, and they hire relatives. You'd be surprised how these foundations really hire a lot of friends and relatives. And so that's what I would do. But that's exactly what I would do. I would hire my kids to run this foundation. That was my basic plan my whole life. And I explained that to my wife, Michelle, when we got married. I said, I want the kids to run the companies, take them on, and you can do this. And, we agreed on this. So that was the plan. I would have never gotten married or had kids if I would have known it was going to end up like this. Who needs more? We don't need more people on the planet. There's plenty of people on the planet. So I had no desire to reproduce. I just wanted to reproduce so that basically I could have some friends, I guess. And it didn't work out that way. I could talk really highly about all the wonderful years I spent with them, but those are all years that I spent giving up my career, giving up my life. It was like I took a 15-year vacation from my business. So I can't really say that's a good thing. So anyway, but I thought that would be the payoff would be then they would continue on for another 15 years. So you could almost think, I didn't think of it exactly like this, but to give you a perspective, if I'm going to invest 15 years, full time taking care of my kids, then maybe they should work full time for 15 years and take care of my stuff, and get paid for it full time. And that's the job. And they're helping me. They're not helping somebody else. They're not helping somebody they don't know. They're helping me and my legacy. And because they love me. And so it just made sense. But they'd rather work night shifts at minimum wage and I don't want to get into it, but they'd rather spend the rest of their life just working minimum wage for people they don't know and complaining about the bad conditions and how they're treated instead of working for my legacy. So that's why I say I can never resolve this. It's never going to be good. I accept it, but I'm never going to be happy about it. So let's just accept that. But anyway, I do love my kids, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get along with them or even give them something. But okay, where were we? Oh, so the American Zen Foundation. So that's my legacy. And now that my life looks like it could have a shorter time limit than I was expecting, I'm hoping I can kind of set that up and put all my stuff there, because I don't want all my stuff to just disappear and and I've got all kinds of books and stuff that I haven't finished and published or released yet, and I can't really get to work. So I'd like to think that my future could continue and the products would have a life, because I guess here's the whole thing. I never say it. I realize it. I'm always thinking it, but I never really say it because it sounds so corny. But I want to end all wars. I want the world to be in peace. Peace and love. Seriously. I'm a hippie from the 60s, but I honestly have proven that it's possible. Most people who say it, are just being optimistic willy-nilly. Peace and love. But I have figured out how to create peace and love, and I've proven it. I've got the statistics. I have, even in prisons, I've trained people and brought up their peace and love factor and lowered their violence. I'm anti-violence, anti-war, and I've made them better citizens. I've worked in rehab centers and made them more self-dependent, less drug-dependent, and able to make their decisions and control their lives better. And once again, I think that makes the future a better place. And I have helped young kids, and I've helped old kids, and I've helped seniors, and I've helped all these people to be healthier and happier. And in every case, in all these hundreds and hundreds, maybe a couple thousand, but we'll just say hundreds of people that I've helped and taught over the years, I've never made one person more violent than when they started. Every single one of those people was less violent, although they were much capable of violence, or capable of winning at violence, being successful at violence. By the end of our friendship, or whatever it is, our tutorship, discipleship. But anyway, but I always made them less violent. Even if I taught them how to be better at being violent, I always made them less violent. And I'm more than happy to do more tests and statistics. I'll prove it over and over again. My success ratio is, maybe I'll just say 99%, so I don't sound totally goofy. So, but anyway, okay, and let's get out of here. An hour and 16 minutes. But there's the kickoff. This is the kickoff for me. I don't want to get too carried away here. In fact, I don't even know when I'm going to publish it. Nobody cares about me right now. I don't think there's any haste to publish it up there. I don't even know it's going to gather me any fans, and maybe I should make these a little nicer and put some background music and put a little lead on the front, and who knows, maybe they'll actually get some plays over the years, these chemotherapy videos. But I'll make one little channel. I'll take my Richard Del Conner YouTube channel, and I think I'll post them there, and I'll post these videos, and it'll be one little line, mixed in, or one little play. There'll be a chemotherapy playlist, I think I'll call it. So anyway, and I'll just give you a journal. We'll see what happens to me. And hopefully by the end I'll be okay. Otherwise, we'll kind of have a diary of my decline. We'll see. But my goal is just, we'll stop this series as soon as, actually they say it could take a couple of weeks after the therapy to recuperate. So maybe I'll even continue this thing a couple of weeks after the therapy so we can actually, in fact, yes, we will. We'll continue this whole thing a month or two past the therapy, because I've taken on cancer people who look like they were Holocaust victims, and you could see their bones, and they were starved. I've had people come to my classes that were chemotherapy graduates, and they were, it makes you feel icky to look at them, because they're so shriveled up. Sorry, if I'm all shriveled up, I'm sure I'd make people feel icky too. But anyway, and I brought them back to health, brought them back to strength a couple of times, and they were just so appreciative, and I got so many recommendations and thank yous from relatives and stuff for helping people out over the years. So I've actually helped other people through their chemotherapy. Well, I'm thinking of one in particular. I think his name was John. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure he's John. And he was a high-level bishop. He was actually a bishop of the Mormon Church. He was one of the people who got people to start bugging me, because he became a fan and a supporter of me. So through his higher level connections in the Mormon Church, he got people to leave me alone and actually be nice to me. So that's the way it is. You either make friends or enemies. It's one or the other. and I'm glad to be making friends, although I sometimes manage to make enemies, I guess, just because they don't understand what I'm doing or don't appreciate what I'm doing. Okay, so anyway, there we go. Anything else I need to say for this first visit? That's what I was saying. I've helped other people through their chemotherapy rehab. Watch me. So let's see what this does for me, and we'll see how much I shrink in my hips too. But this is going to be a test to see what I can do. When I come out of this chemotherapy, maybe we'll have some way I've shown you what my physical abilities are. And then we'll look at me over the next couple of months, and we'll watch me progress back to better health, even though I'm 67 years old, and watch my health come bounce back with the kung fu. So I'll have my kung fu therapy. In fact, maybe maybe that's what I can do. Is when I complete this, I'll create it's really my Tai Chi Youth. My Tai Chi Youth program is my easiest program. Well, that's not true. I've created a senior program. Anyway, maybe I should have my chemotherapy rehab, semester, which would really be the first semester, I think. Unless I was going to make it really wimpy. I don't know. We'll see. So we'll see. In fact, that's what I will do, is when we're done with this, maybe what I'll do is I'll go back and do I really want to do that? Yeah, let's do that. I'll do the first semester. I'll do one whole semester of Kung Fu, the first semester, just like you would. Because I'm going to be, obviously, anyway, and maybe I'll record that first level, and it'll be there, and maybe I can even sell it. Maybe people will say, well, gosh, I should be able to keep up with this chemotherapy guy. This should be an easy Tai Chi program, because most people complain my Tai Chi program is too difficult. So let's see if when I'm all, I don't know, we'll see what condition I'm in after all my chemotherapy. See if you can keep up with me. See, there's the optimist in me coming back. All right, in fact, my family's been, I would tell my family, I'd say, I'm not going to be, everything's going to be okay. And I go, I'm not going to say that. I said, I want to think that, and I'm naturally an optimist, but I said, I'm not a blind optimist. I'm willing to be optimistic when I have statistical evidence that it's a reasonable conclusion. And I said, now I finally have statistical evidence that it is a reasonable conclusion that I can get rid of this. So now I'm starting to be optimistic. All right. See you guys. Well, tomorrow. I guess I'm going to do this every day. I'm not really into this chatting, posting thing. So hopefully I will be diligent on this. So June 21st, 2021, Richard O'Connor. Buddha Jen. Well, actually, I'm going to be obviously coming back also as Buddha Jen, because I told you I was going to do the Kung Fu. So you're going to see, I'm also Buddha Jen Shen Long. Jen, Z-H-E-N is my last name. Shen Long is my first and middle. Shen means spirit, S-H-E-N. L-A-N-G means wolf. It also means dragon, so you have to see the character for long. Long dragon, long wolf. They sound the same, but they're different. But I'm spirit wolf, and my last name is Jen, which also means truth. So I'm the spirit wolf of truth. And I was named by the Chen family, who came from Chen village in China. They actually came there and came over here. I got friends with them, and they're the ones that named me. They wanted to name me Chen because I was teaching Tai Chi and everything. I said, but no, I can't. I don't teach your Chen Tai Chi. I refuse. Well, I didn't use the word refuse, but I said, I just can't. I said, I wouldn't feel good about it, And so that's how we came up with the Jen. And the compromise, it was by his teenage daughter was what, anyway, I got a video somewhere where I tell that story, but it's a cool little story about how I actually got my Chinese name. So Spirit Wolf of Truth is my Chinese name, Jen Shen Long. So yeah, I guess I'll be talking to you about those identities. As far as, I got one other identity, Kung Fu Cowboy, who's also the grown-up version of the hippie coyote. But we'll leave him out of this picture, because I guess nobody's going to, in fact, I'm hoping I can still, maybe I can do mixing and editing, but I don't know if I'll be able to do much singing and playing if I don't feel good, because you got to have that energy and that vitality. It's got to come out in the music. So I don't know what I can produce. Most of the stuff I need to do is mixing and mastering. So for that, I'll be okay. But in terms of singing or something, if I felt crappy, I don't want to sing. I got to sing with some love. There's got to be that energy. It's got to come from a source. If I got the love in me, then I'd like to think it comes out in the vocal. Can't just imagine, oh, I love you, and I love you, and I love you. That's not going to be so sincere. It's like, no, I love you, and I love you. It's got to have some meaning to it. All right, see you later.
Vegas to drum for the lion dance. Left California to end a 20-year romance. But at the end of the Chinese New Year, they were done using me and said, move out of here. So I was stuck in Vegas without a job or a friend, homeless, living in the backyard of a Freemason. He put me to work laying concrete and cleaning. But at the end of the month, he said, it's time you were leaving. Use me for something you need. wrong. I've got no place to go. I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for a home. This is the scariest year that I've ever known. Waiting for a paycheck to see where I'm going. Use me for something you need. Use me for a place I can sleep.